this is the production room. This is the part of the studio where we actually create the actual process, the printing process of the artworks and the prints that we produce here. I'm gonna briefly just introduce you to two of the processes we make here in the shop. The first one is relief printing, which is a linoleum in this case, but is similar to the most known, which is woodcut. And relief printing is probably the oldest form of printmaking. So it's still very relevant today and very used. And the second process is called screen printing, which is a mesh where the image gets transferred to the screen. These processes are very different. The relief printing is a flat surface that artists carve into it. And it's called relief printing because what you carve does not print, only the top surface of the plate. And screen printing is very different. It's a stencil process, but we use a photographic emulsion on the screen. So we have to create what's called a film positive of the image that we want to print. In this case, this image was drawn and laid out, scanned in the computer, and it has some digital graphics, and then printed in this film. The important thing to have this transparency film is that once it gets exposed to the light to the screen, will transfer the image photographically to the screen, creating a stencil on the mesh. The squeegee is used to actually press the ink through the mesh, transferring that design to the paper. In this case, I'm making a street performance in a couple of weeks for a performance exhibition downtown where these cards will be cut and then given to people to provide their own message or write or tag their own messages, and keep the cards and post them in social media. So the process of screen printing is very used for that kind of contact with the public because it allows us to reproduce an image multiple times. So now the screen printing process, it is used for fine art printing too, which is the one we use the most, where the artists create a very limited edition print of their work. I'm actually going to give you a demonstration of the relief process right now, so you can see how the relief gets transferred to the paper. The screen printing is printed and used in these flat tables. The relief printing and etching, which I'm not going to show you today, are printed on this press, and you'll see that right now. So we have a glass top table in order to roll this ink. I already kind of mix and prepare the ink a little bit, soften it up enough coming off the can. I'm going to be using this roller to create a flat surface of ink and coat the roller completely around the perimeter of the roller. The idea of this is to now I can roll that on the plate, and as I said, this is why this is called relief printing, because I'm only covering the top surface of the plate. Would give you a different result, a different texture. The carving process of the wood block is probably a little more complicated than the linoleum. The linoleum got very popular because of the flatness that it has in the plate, and it cuts a little easier. As we prepare the plate and ink it, the first print is called a proof because we really not sure how the plate look. I have already editioned this plate before, so I know it did work. But I'm gonna assume that I haven't. So This is the process we go through, where we first print a newsprint to evaluate the paper. I mean the plate and the quality of the drawing and the carving. We usually put an extra piece of paper above to protect the blanket from ink seeping through there. I already pressed the plate previously to set up the pressure of the press. These rollers are very strong, that's why we can print this by hand, but in order to make more than one print, we need to use the press to guarantee consistency on the print. This process is, again, one of the oldest forms of printmaking, but as I said before, very, very relevant still. I put the pressure on the press, and the same way I'm testing the plate, I'm testing the pressure. So I can make this proof, and then once I lift the proof, now I can tell where my pressure is and the quality of the drawing and the relationship between the pressure, the paper, and the plate. In this case, this is looking pretty good. As I said before, I have editioned this plate in the past, so I knew it was going to work, but I wasn't sure about the pressure. But now I can see, and what I mean by that is that if it's too light or too pressed, you can adjust the pressure of the plate, of the press, to accommodate the plate, sorry. With printmaking, is very unique because it's the same process, but each image, each artist we produce require a different level of adjustment on the press, on the type of ink, on the pressure, on the type of screens, depending on the paper and the quality of the image, be it very graphic, very flat, very detailed. It provides different type of complexity to the printing process. Once you make this proof, then I'm now ready to make the decision what kind of paper, how many I'm gonna make, so I can now replace the newsprint with an actual fine art paper of other type of paper that I would like to use to print this image, and then just repeat this process multiple times to create as many prints as you want. Although this is set up and I know it works, it's a hand process, so every print can have variations, and to keep a consistent print throughout the run or the edition depends on how we adjust those the manual labor to create the print. This part of the process is called screen printing. I'm going to show you how simulate how we transfer the image to the screen. The term screen printing comes from the mesh. There is a screen, and that screen has different level of tightness, low levels, mid levels, and high levels to create different amount of detail or deposit different amount of ink. This is the light table or exposure unit, they can be called. And as I explained, with creating a transparency or what's called a film positive in order to transfer that drawing to the screen. We use a photo emulsion, which is that orange field that you see there is blocking the screen mesh. Once that's dry, then the process is to expose that drawing to the screen, and that is placed above the lights, and then the drawing below the screen, between the glass and the screen. In order to achieve a good transfer from the film to the screen, to make a good stencil, we have to use what's called a vacuum table. This exposure unit has the lights underneath the glass, and then it has what's called a rubber blanket. This rubber blanket is what's going to create the right contact for me to make the screens. I have the vacuum on, and what it's doing now is that it's starting to suck up all the air from the table and create the right suction, the right contact between the glass and the screen. What this is doing is making that space between the glass and the screen as tight as possible, so only the film is there. Once that had been sucked in and the right contact is created now, then I can time how many seconds, how many minutes I want the light to expose the screen. That decision is made based on the type of drawing. If it's a fine line, if it's a halftone, a computer printout, if it's a texture, if it's a solid, a very graphic image, it will determine how many seconds I put in or how many minutes sometime. Once that is set on, I turn it on, the lights will take that much time to expose the screen. Once that timer goes off, then I'll turn my vacuum off and then try to release now the screen, being as careful as I can so the screen doesn't bounce off. Once that amount of time has been done from the light exposing the screen, I will take the screen now, although this had been already exposed, and take it to the bath to be developed. The advantage of this process is that this can be developed just with water. So just by turning the sink on and just rinsing the screen, what I will be doing is just pouring water on the screen, and the drawing that was exposed to the screen, the emulsion will fall off. I will just bring the screen this way, inside and out. And then the screen will release the area where they had the drawing that didn't get light. The orange part, they got the exposure, that's why I have to make a transparency. That got what's called cure, and that's what creates then a stencil. So you can see it against the light, and that opening will release the ink onto the paper. So that's the process of making a stencil and a screen print. What you didn't see was when I put the emulsion and I have to sit there and let it dry in a dark room. But then you see the process of exposing, developing, and as you saw earlier, how it's set up ready to print. So those are the steps for screen printing.